Matt, Quantum of Conscience, January 7th, 2019. If you can believe that. Wow. The 6 elements of getting to the bottom of something. The who, what, where, when, why, and how. 6 false breadcrumbs that this reality lays for us. Well, what else is there, if not the who, what, when, where, why, and how? I hope you'll see. That's what this presentation's all about. There's a certain group of people who question reality and see that, in general, most things explained by an official story don't add up. There are 6 elements of any story, real, fake, conspiracy, etc. And we all know what those 6 elements are. We've heard them our entire lives. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. It appears logical that when another fake story is vomited up by society's puppet masters, such as another bullshit project that Elon Musk is working on, for example, we should all take to YouTube to prove it fake by tirelessly doing research on the who, what, where, when, why, and how of the bullshit story. That's what we do. That's what we have been doing. Now, I understand that the Tesla car exists. But I don't believe that Elon Musk just sent a convertible into a billion-year orbit around Mars, or that Elon Musk will soon have supersonic tubes going under the ground all over the United States. I don't buy most of these bullshit projects. But who or what Elon Musk is not the point. People would say, don't investigate the who, what, when, where, why, and how. But isn't that our duty as truthers? To expose these 6 elements? To get to the truth using the 6 elements? No. To those who finally want to step off the hamster wheel after running on the same hamster wheel for 10 years straight, we can see that this, quote, chasing the 6 breadcrumbs is exactly what the system wants us doing. I don't know about you, but at this point, when I can clearly see what the system wants me to do, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm finally realizing all breadcrumbs laid down for us to pick up are pissed-on breadcrumbs, strategically placed there by the system. Every one of them is some kind of poison if associated with chasing the who, what, where, when, why, and how. We think we're getting somewhere, but we're riding on their merry-go-round going nowhere. It's clear that chasing the 6 elements of a fraudulent story or chasing the 6 elements of a conspiracy through research is exactly what this life matrix wants us to do. We don't get anywhere. So hasn't 10 years plus proven that this pursuit is a waste of time? Are we just going to keep doing the same things over and over again, decade after decade, getting nowhere? I'm not saying it's a waste of time researching the 6 elements because society's puppet masters on Mount Olympus are so skilled at protecting their ruse, because they have so carefully hidden their Easter eggs away from us. No, not at all. I'm not sure there are any Easter eggs to be found, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying we don't find the answers when pursuing the 6 elements of who, what, when, where, and why, because the secrets are so well hidden. I'm saying the entire reality maze is designed this way on purpose with a 6 breadcrumb distraction that leads to nowhere. I'm saying this revelation, if true, is an aspect of reality itself. We keep entering a maze that has no ending, no terminus, no other side, where we keep expecting a different result. Take any aspect of society's ruses. In thousands of hours of pursuing the who, what, when, where, why, and how, we aren't any closer than we were almost 10 years ago in the majority of these subjects. When this happens, to continue running on the hamster wheel is not just the definition of insanity, it's the fucking definition of Forrest Gump stupid. You see, stupid is as stupid does. And look what weed does in this community. The same damn thing. They say proof is in the pudding. We ain't never placed even a spoonful of pudding in our mouth in 10 years on any of these subjects. So I say, screw trying to get the pudding. Become a fisherman or a duck hunter instead to eat. The very moment we saw Hillary Clinton weeble-wobble around and falling down on 9/11 and acting sick and coughing all over her microphone during the speeches before the election, we shouldn't have put 1 ounce of effort into determining what was going on with her, into trying to find out the who, what, when, where, why, and how of her situation. We should have just walked away. was a pissed-on breadcrumb, as all the other thousands of things are. Was that her clone that popped out of Chelsea's apartment after she fell down and weeble-wobbled on 9/11 at the memorial? Who the heck cares what that thing was? Who that thing was? Why did we spend time on the who, what, when, where, why, and how of it? That's what I'm saying. We know the entire thing was fake regarding Hillary Clinton because the 100 stories of her sickness and falling down all over the place before the election was followed up by basically 0 stories of her sickness after the fake election. This, quote, Hillary sickness issue was not just an Alex Jones thing or Alex Jones news item. Oh, no, most of the media covered it. Most famous coughing incident of them all, the incident of the spewing sputum, was covered by the Medusa herself, Mika Brzezinski, all over NBC for 2 days straight, while Morning Joe just sat there with his pants down. Take any fake element of reality we all have investigated in the past over many, many years. Throw a dart blindfolded at a wall covered in sticky notes, full of everything I or someone like Russian Vids has covered in the past. Throw your dart. Go ahead. Where did it land? Did it land on the sticky note that says the fake moon landing? Or one over here on this sticky note that says how the Fed just makes up money from nothing? On the Titanic Olympic ruse that presidents are actors pushing another's agenda? These sticky notes cover our wall. We don't get anywhere with any of these sticky notes. We just add another sticky note, like Tartaria. We all want to know the who, what, where, when, and why, and how of all of these things. That's our duty, to get to the bottom of it, right? To find out the who, what, when, where, and why of all of this. No. We should know by now, after a decade of this treadmill work, that this pursuit is futile. Take the example of presidents not being, quote, real. Let's examine the 6 elements on this one together. Element 1, the who. Who, then, are these puppet masters that presidents and prime ministers report to? We know that searching for the who behind the final curtain is a waste of time that will never yield any results. We know that because we're not getting any closer. If we're ever going to know what or who is pulling the strings on presidents and prime ministers, we would already know by now or be getting very close. We're not. Because the confusion of who's behind the final curtain never narrows down, but actually grows, it tells us something about the nature of what we're dealing with here. For example, would the NCAA think there's anything wrong or think there's a problem if they started week 1 in March Madness with 64 teams, and by week 4 they looked up and they had 128 teams in March Madness? Well, we conspiracy dummies think that situation's perfectly normal. Here, as of 2019, is the long list of, quote, clue board game culprits of who did it to us in the library using the candlestick, or potentially did it to us. We have archons, Satan himself, Anunnaki, reptilians, the New World Order, Greys, and other aliens, Nephilim, secret societies, which there are many, demons, Rothschilds, Bilderberg attendees, Bohemian Grove attendees, Lucifer, different entity from Satan, interdimensional beings speaking with the bad guys here on Earth through the CERN walkie-talkie. Oprah's belly, perhaps, is on the list of who done it to us. Think about that. Our who's the bad guy list just gets bigger and bigger year after year. We're not narrowing anything down. Therefore, yeah, if we don't have any idea who the who is at this point, we ain't ever going to know. Shouldn't the list of bad guys be getting smaller after 10 years of hard work by me, Russian Vids, you, and the rest of us? Sherlock Holmes would have fired our asses just a few weeks after 2012. When he asks us who done it, we present him with the entire London phone book. Pause. As a reminder, please remember in this section we are looking at the 6 elements, the who, what, where, when, why, and how, of how a completely controlled political structure exists, how politicians can be in the bag, carrying out the wishes of others, and going through each element. We know, of course, that today's politicians aren't even free-range puppets. Element 2 on this topic is the what. In controlling politicians, what is their ultimate agenda in orchestrating such a massive effort and keeping potentially thousands of them in on it? Note, once the state of a lie can be seen and realized, pursuing the final what is pointless if you don't know the who. Since we'll never know the who, the final what and pursuing that is a waste of time. For example, can you know what an animal under a covered cage wants to eat without knowing what the animal actually is? You'll end up trying to serve a full salmon to a parakeet. This part can get a little confusing, so I'll go very slow. The final what at the end of the line is something we'll never comprehend. But the tactical what is necessary for us to see, and actually easily seen. The tactical what is the what that's closest to us, that's in our face all day, that's presented by the system. It's not the what that's at the end of the train line. For example, it's obvious that this system wants you and I following the endless script of pursuing materialism and then endless debt to pursue more materialism. That's obviously what it wants. Now that's a tactic. That's not the large goal or what it wants. It's a tactic that pops up in our face all day long. So on that surface level, I can see what it wants, and I can simply choose not to do it, or I can simply choose to walk the other way. We can almost always see the surface level what, but the final what looming at 30,000 feet is too many levels away from our reality to chase or to figure out. Seeing the surface level what, that is easy. It's easy for us who can read the Matrix code, and it allows us to essentially pick Robert Frost's less chosen path and not walk the path that it wants us to walk, that the system wants us to walk. And per Robert Frost, will that make all the difference? Yeah, potentially in saving our own souls, it may. The element where is more obvious, of course, but it isn't always as clear-cut as you may think. Well, we know where 9/11 happened in New York, and it happened in Washington, D.C., and in Shanksville. And we know where they say the LEM landed. The immediate where element seems easy, but the endless debate people like to have over the breadcrumbs regarding this third element is what the physical nature of this realm or of this reality is to begin with. It's the whole where there's a big question mark associated with where. Probably implanted by the system itself. Is it globe? Is it flat? Is it concave? Is it hollow earth? Is it toroidal? There are other possibilities. Possibilities like Cliff High's notion that reality is created a few trillion times a second and destroyed a few trillion times every second. I once watched an hour of off-planet radio waiting for either of them to ask Cliff, how could you or anyone prove that reality is created and destroyed 2 trillion times a second? Crickets. Never really explained that one to me. Look, I don't believe, as I've said many times, in less filling or taste great. A beer must be one of those two. I believe there are a million permutations in between less filling and taste great. And that is the nature of this plane of existence. Ourself, globe, flat. No, there's most likely something in between, or a million things in between, if you see what I'm saying. So the where seems simple, but it's not simple when the nature of the plane itself is a disputed where. The point is, if there's no consensus on the characteristics of the plane of existence itself, then nobody ever really knows the where element of anything, do they? It's more confusion introduced to us on purpose. Now, saying something happened in the Milky Way becomes as relevant as saying it happened up Oprah's ass. What's the difference? As long as you aren't rolled over by a giant kernel of corn. The controllers have even pissed on the breadcrumb that confuses what part of the Milky Way we're supposedly living in. Confusion by design from Neil the Donut Boy. You bet it's by design. The where at the terminus asks, what are the physical parameters of this 3D existence? What we must say is, who the hell gives a shit? Is there a whole other part of this earth larger that we can't get to, and places where the controllers and the elites go and frolic around in Matt Damon's Elysium? Who gives a shit? We know this is a debate that will never find an answer. Flat versus globe, the nature of this realm. Guess what? Same thing, guys. If it was going to be figured out, we would have done it by now. The debate hasn't gone anywhere. It hasn't gone anywhere. Therefore, it's never going to go anywhere. I mean, really? I mean, what do the flat earthers expect is going to happen? One day everybody's just going to come around to it? There's going to be a ticker tape parade? I'm not saying there isn't tremendous evidence on your side. I'm saying this reality puts out evidence on both sides. Evidence exists that supports all camps simultaneously. That's the nature of this realm, whether you think it's a matrix, hologram, simulation, or something else. It plays games on both sides. We don't know that by now? Guess what, flat earthers? Although you just can't believe it, I bet like physics and astronomy professors at every single school in the Big Ten or Pac-12 or Big 12, they can actually support the ball earth theory and quite a bit of stuff. I guarantee they got something up their sleeve that supports it. I mean, it's not just one-sided. That's the nature of what this matrix does to us. Even there's some basic shit. I know it's really hard to understand, flat earthers, like being able to see different stars in Australia at night than you can see like in Connecticut. I mean, look, I'm not saying there isn't tremendous evidence and things on your side and that you haven't proven that the 8 inches squared drop-off doesn't hold when you shine a laser across a lake. I agree, you've done all that. But it's not one-sided. This reality can likely show both two faces at once. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Before I feel your wrath, flat earthers, just know that if you know me, I believe NASA has lied about absolutely everything. So who's really your enemy? So, in all the examples presented thus far, in what we chase as truthers, we have no chance of finding out the who, the what, or the where. We're a fucked 0 for 3 in the first 3 pissed-on breadcrumb elements. So let's see how we do on the last 3 elements. The element of when it happened seems really simple. The Fed's screwing us. When? Well, right now. Whatever that means, since no moment can be isolated as it's happening. And we all know the date of the JFK assassination. We know the when of that because we can look back in time or pause our DVR. That's when. But the when element could be the most pointless element because time itself likely does not exist without conscious perception. The when is the easiest breadcrumb to find, but it's perhaps the most soaked with the controller's piss. When can be a confusing variable that this matrix control structure likes or loves us chasing. For example, when was the last earthly cataclysm? When was the mud flood, Mr. Mudblood? When did man find the spark of intelligence to rise up above the animals? That whole Darwin premise is a pissed-on breadcrumb, of course, as they lead us to believe that we were just hugging trees and pooping in the woods about 1,000 years before King Tut's rule. Sure. How old is mankind? That's a when aspect. Are these fossils really 1 billion years old when we see now that some fossils can be made in a few years? When will Planet X arrive? When's the next cataclysm? When's the 3 days of darkness coming? There are a million when questions that this life matrix asks us to chase like a stuffed rabbit in the Miami dog track. When is the biggest waste of time while bending over to pick up all the breadcrumbs that we've picked up over the years? You may as well stay bent over for them. The when breadcrumb, I skeptically believe, is somehow used by the shepherds that control demonic shepherds to have the sheep, us, manifest the horror on themselves. When did the mud flood happen? Was it 1850, 1860? That implies, at least subconsciously, to quantum reality creators that it will happen again, or at least some sort of cataclysm will happen again, and very soon. See, that it could be potentially very dangerous to plant that seed into quantum reality creators. Therefore, my seed that I plant back at them is to say it never will happen. No, there's not going to be another cataclysm, and I'm not going to help manifest it or participate in it. But that's a topic for another time. This leaves the main event. The last two giant breadcrumbs in the center ring under the Cirque du Soleil spotlight. The how and the why of things. How'd they do it? Why did they do it? These crumbs are chased after like they're more like they're giant piston loaves of bread than the croutons offered by the other elements. How did they do it? That's the big one, the monster, and almost everything we've researched and looked at over the years. Looking at just 9/11. The how questions are endless. It's an endless trail of breadcrumbs that leads to nothing we will ever be able to find. The questions that pose how are, again, a list that would go on regarding 9/11 for hundreds of pages. For example, if over 3,000 video cameras were pointed towards the top of the Twin Towers after Tower 1 was struck by something, how is it that there are only 10 blurry videos of something gray hitting the second tower? What happened to the other 2,990 videos that people would have had pointing their cameras towards both World Trade Centers? Were they all overwritten for bar mitzvah recordings that happened a month later? How did they get something to hit the Pentagon without the thousands of people driving the highways in D.C. noticing it wasn't a 757 that hit, but was something else? How did they get so many actors in on it? From Harley Guy to Todd Beamer's wife presenting the Let's Roll fairy tale for weeks after the event. How did they do this? How did they do that? This breadcrumb pursuit is endless, and not just with 9/11, with almost all what we would call conspiracy. This search for how seems to be exactly what they want us, people looking for truth. It's what they want us doing all day long for the rest of our lives, for they know it is a maze with no end. It may be a big part of what YouTube is actually for. You think they really need ad revenue? You think they need money? The last element, the why, of course, is the big one. Why did they do it? Why do they screw us over? Why would they lie to us? Why would they fake this event? It goes on forever. There's never an answer. Don't expect to get an answer. It's the nature of this reality. Look, it'll always be interesting for us and those studying these issues for many, many years. It'll always be interesting to ponder the why. But we must realize that if we don't even know the who did it, we're never going to know why, of course. Those in the know, or at least that have dedicated themselves to having a more clear image of the reality script that's presented to us, we can speculate for fun. But that's all we'll ever be able to do. It's all we should do. We shouldn't expect to know the why. Give me a break. I just showed you we're not going to know any of the elements. If I don't know who killed Miss Scarlet in the study, how the hell can I say why it was done? Of course, we're not completely impotent here. I mean, we can get a general sense of why certain things go on. We'll never know for sure. We can get a general sense, like energy harvesting, or they're trying to create negativity, a negative frequency. They're trying to create fear, anxiety, anger, things like that. That's all fair speculation. But the more time we spend chasing the why, the more we just end up holding our pud in our hands. Look, here's the good news. To win, we don't need to know the why of anything. In fact, to win, we don't have to possess any of the 6 elements. We don't have to gather up any of the 6 piston breadcrumbs to win, while at the same time fucking them over. Before I end the specifics on the 6 elements, there is one other thing that's very important to say about why. Why did they do it? Why did they do this? Why did they do that? This is the biggest mental defense mechanism employed by, say, the people around us that we would like to speak to about these topics. When you start telling them new and scary things or giving them information that may crack or break down their worldview, they immediately will jump to the why. Now, they don't even consciously aware, they won't know why they're doing it. Their subconscious is trying to protect their worldview pretty aggressively. So they play games that I call take me to the last page of the book, or if you're trying to tell a story, they will say, well, tell me why, which basically means show me the story's ending first. So you could explain or lay out all sorts of facts, figures, statistics, proof of different things laid out in different fashions. But if you can't explain why of it, and I think subconsciously these people know you can't explain why, or you don't have all those answers. And then when you can't deliver the story's end immediately to people that you begin talking to about any of these subjects, they then, of course, use that against you as to why nothing you're saying can be believed. You know, for example, you you run down to a bar and you say to your best friend, your house has been robbed. You know the door's been broken in. You poked your head in, and all the sofas turned upside down, and all the expensive lamps are missing. And the guy at the bar says, "Well, why'd the guy do it? Why was it done?" "Well, I don't know why it was done." You say back to him, "Your door's broken in, and half your shit's gone." "Well, you can't explain why he did it. Then it must not have happened." It's beyond illogical. It's almost insane tactics that people around us employ to protect their worldview, and they don't go right to the when or right to the where or the stuff that we normally can try to deliver. They go right to the why. They go right to the place we know we can't deliver, and in my opinion, they're not even consciously aware of what they're doing. And one last note on this topic, just a continuation, something I just thought of. I came across some video. Chris Jericho has some truther channel on YouTube. He's like an ex-wrestler. I'm not that familiar with him. It was a pretty interesting discussion, and you could see it seems like Chris Jericho's kind of thrown into this role like what's Joe Rogan type, for example. And in all whoever was making the presentation was kind of falling short in this one area regarding the why. Everything out of Jericho's mouth was, well, wait a second, why would they do that? Why would they? When that starts happening, and this just Chris Jericho's, I got this show or something where he's supposed to be open-minded presenting these topics. The person, whoever's on his show, is to say, wait a sec, Chris, let me point out what you're doing. Let me point out the mental games you're playing right now. The point is, you have to at least let me make the presentation before we can address the why. The why is the last element. And he kept doing it. Every time this guy threw something out, well, why would they do that? Why would they lie about that? And it's like, you can't just keep trying to answer him. You have to say, stop what you're doing, okay? You're saying, take me to the last page of the book before I've gotten past the first page. Let me read the damn book to you. On the last page, we can discuss this. But that's what, you have to stop people in their tracks and point out what they themselves aren't even aware of what they're doing. Okay, this is the beginning of part 2. From our perspective, all we can do is realize the nature of the thing as it's presented to us, or realize the nature of the lie. That is all. Following, say, the 100 directions of piston breadcrumbs that radiate out from each thing we've ever looked at is not only pointless, it's exactly what the system wants us to do. For example, 9/11, the concept, what happened, the who, what, when, where, and why of 9/11 radiates out 10,000 breadcrumb trails to follow if you want to follow them. 10,000, at least. The system wants you to follow all of them. It wants you to pick up each of them, sniff it, and eat it. That is the purpose of all of these breadcrumbs that radiate out from these events. It's a maze that can't be won. Sandy Hook radiates 2,000 paths of breadcrumbs outward to follow. I've followed about 1,900 of them, and I stopped. Lone Scum, that's Elon Musk. Lone Scum sports car in space radiates about 500 piston breadcrumbs out that the system itself wants you to follow, pick up, sniff, and eat. Here's one radiating out from Elon Musk and SpaceX, and it's a piston breadcrumb that says, investigate this, the fake crowds, the fake cheering, and the obnoxious millennial snotty hosts that you want to smack in the face. The cause of World War I radiates out 100 breadcrumbs. Tartaria radiates 100 breadcrumbs. I am not saying there are no There is no truth in any of this. I'm not saying that it's all made up or Tartaria is made. Tartaria is simply 9/11. Okay, 9/11, yeah, buildings really fell. Other than that, we don't truly know what happened. Okay, so of course there's a major element of truth, but it wants you chasing that forever. The system itself, the nature of your reality. And somebody just commented, and I'm adding this on the fly on my last video, the nature of reality is truth will never be found. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying here. But that's outward truth. That's the projection screen all around us. There's never going to be a point where we look outside or on the projection screen and say, look, I found it. I got it. The key to everything. The thing that ties everything together. Stephen Hawking's theory of everything. You know, think about what he put out. Stephen Hawking, whatever. One theory to explain and tie together everything. That's what it wants us looking for. Look, I found it. It's not going to be out there. It's not going to be out there. It's in here. Pick a thing that we study. Chemtrails, for example. Pick one, chemtrails. Today, we only know 2 of the breadcrumb elements associated with chemtrails. After many of us looking at this pretty hardcore for about 10 years. Of course, that has not been my focus. It has been the focus of others. 2 elements, all we have. That's pretty bad. And we'll almost always know the surface where of it. Well, yeah, where is pretty simple. And when is pretty simple regarding chemtrails. If we didn't know the where and when of anything, we wouldn't even perceive it happening. So what is the where and the when of a chemtrail? Well, it's just look up. It's happening. There you go. When and where. It's right above your head. What about the who? Do we know who for chemtrails? Do we know the who for anything, let alone chemtrails? No, we don't. Remember that list I gave out about 10 minutes ago? And don't, for anybody saying something nebulous like, yo, we know the government does chemtrails. What does that mean? What the hell does that even mean? That's not telling me who. That's not even getting me close to what's behind the final curtain. Government is just an outward agent of the system itself, whatever that is. Nothing ends with Donald Trump. It starts with Donald Trump, the Orange Man. If you think you know the whodunit, you're barely sticking your big toe in the rabbit hole. We don't know the what of chemtrails either. Don't just parrot back to me, oh, we know what. Strontium, barium, aluminum, strontium, smart dust. What does that even mean? Just parroting back things we've heard online without any real understanding of the root of the what breadcrumb is pointless. With a chemtrail, we can easily look up and see the where and the when. The how and the why it's being done, we don't have a frigging clue. Chemtrails, regarding the things we research, is rather unique in that it's not the system asking anything of you in presenting this chemtrail story. Unlike the 9/11 story, for example, chemtrail doesn't ask even for your belief in it. A chemtrail is simply there above you. No more, no less. A chemplane doesn't drop leaflets explaining, here's your tax dollars at work, and here's what we want to mislead you into thinking we're doing with this chemtrail. 9/11 wanted you to do something. It wanted you to react in a certain way. It wanted you to put out a certain emotion. It wanted you to plan your life around certain... 9/11 wanted something from you. Chemtrails is one of the only things we investigate that seems to want nothing. At least from a decision standpoint, from those who observe it. So if I've been a bit all over the place, let me just summarize right now. For each thing we look at, for each event we've chased, I'm saying endless research on the who, what, where, when, and why is now proven pointless to me. This now segues into the only 2 elements, and they're not one of the 6 breadcrumb directions. The only 2 elements on these events that should be important to us or to anybody. 2 elements. And they're not part of the 6 piss-soaked breadcrumbs. That's a waste, chasing who, what, when, where, and why. A waste. The 2 important elements are related to the what, but only in regard to what does the event or what does the lie want from me? What does it want me to do? That's the key. Again, we'll never know exactly what the beast, whatever that thing is behind the curtain, we'll never know exactly what it's up to. That's the main breadcrumb of what, and we'll never know. All we can do is find out what that fake event, or that constructed lie, or that false statistic, or all the other bullcrap put out in the society. All we can do is, what does it want me to do? How does it want me to feel? How does it want me to react? What does it want me to buy? How does it want to put me into debt? That's all we need to do. It's all we can do, but it's all we need to do. We're never going to see down to the root of the thing itself. So, for any subject where any truther has ever investigated the subject, there are only two things we should care about, two elements. Two elements for 9/11. What started World War I? Did we go to the moon? What are all these fake shootings in Sandy Hook? What is the real nature of outer space? Were there actually Voyager probes sent outside the solar system? Who exactly is Bruce Jenner? And who put him up to this stunt where he wants to say he's a woman? How did ESPN go along with it and gave him the Courage Award and put him up on stage with a dress? These, obviously, the topics we've looked into are endless. And we know what the topics of the month are. For any of these, it's a simple formula. It's all we need to do, all we can do. 1. Can I see the basic lie? I may not know what happened exactly, but can I determine that what they're telling me did not happen? Tonight we're reporting that 19 guys with box cutters took down 7 skyscrapers. Well, without a whole lot of research, if that happened now, with the eyes that we have now, we could say, no, that's bullshit. So the first part's easy for us, people that can read the Matrix code. We see some shooting on television, and the all the police are dressed like the army with helmets and running around with assault rifles, and all the different divisions are there, ATF and FBI and local police, and then it's the same script every time, and the shooter shoots himself, kills himself, and it's the same. I mean, we can look at that with the eyes we have now. We can look at these events for like 5 minutes and go, that's total bullshit. So seeing the bullshit, hey, NASA's now going to Mars. Seeing the bullshit's easy for us now. So part 1 is just a piece of cake for almost anybody watching. Here comes the news. You listen to it, you go, that's bullshit. Unemployment dipped to 4.8, almost full employment. Yeah, I have like 3 cousins that can't find work in 4 years. Yeah, that's bullshit. So that's easy. Okay, that's easy. We can see the lie. Number 2, the big one. Basically the heart, the main purpose of this entire video. The lie that's put out, or the manipulation. What does the lie or the manipulation want from me? What does it want me to do? What would I have done listening to that information before I realized what was really going on, before I realized that I could easily see the lie? What do I think that information or that lie or that ruse or that fake event does to the people around me? What is the carrot? What direction's the carrot going? Where is it leading people? Okay, what's it leading the sleeping masses to do? This is absolutely everything. Now, the point of number 2 is very, very simple. It's analysis of what it wants me to do, or it's not just getting up and doing something. How does it want me to react? It wants me to be in fear. It wants me to be scared. It wants me to get angry. So then you simply not only not do it, in most cases, you take the opposite approach. Although I'm never going to, anybody that says you should, love your enemy. No, I'm never going to extend my most powerful emotion to a creature like Anderson Cooper. No, I'm not going to send any love. I'd rather starve the freak. Starve him from a frequency resonance standpoint, or whatever these vampires feed from. I'm not going to send any love in the direction of a creature like that. So that's one area where I would say, don't do the opposite, but that's certainly your own choice. In most cases, if it wants me to turn left, then I simply turn right. So guys, help me out here. I mean, can we apply this formula to anything? Start with the basic, 9/11. Can I see it? Yeah, we all can see that 19 guys didn't bring down 7 skyscrapers with their true value box cutters. Okay, we can see it. If it happened today, we would be able to see it instantly. That's the eyes that we have today. Part 2 is analyzing, well, what did it want from me when I believed it? Well, it wanted me start with the basics and work into the more complicated. It wanted me believing that this terrorism threat exists, and therefore I should be just fine with trillions of dollars spent on combating this terrorism threat, and I should be fine with sending all my relatives between 18 and 20 that joined the Army over to fight in any Middle East war. I should be just fine with that because 9/11 says I should just basically do everything I can do to combat this fake terrorism threat. Therefore, once I can see it, I do the opposite. It also, it's again, like I mentioned, it's not just wanting you to get up and do something. Maybe even more importantly, it wants you in an emotional state of mind. It wants you afraid to visit New York after 9/11, in fear, anxiety, worry. Maybe that's really where they suck the energy out of the ether. But again, now we've just speculated into the why. And I just said we shouldn't follow those breadcrumbs. And I'm going to stick to that whenever I can. So, let's try to apply this to everything. It'll break down as bullshit if I'm wrong about it. These 2 questions are the only things that should matter. Number 1, do you see the fraud? If you see it, fine. You've satisfied half already. 2, you must not do what it wants you to do. You must not have the emotion elicited that it wants. It is presenting the fraud for a reason. That's it. You want to win? That's it. It's not going to be complicated. Those YouTube channels that present it as being so complicated, think about it. There's just no way it could be that complicated. It's just everything inside of us, it resonates that it's going to be simple. The answer is going to be simple. Even if I'm wrong about this, the answer is going to be simple. Not how complicated all these YouTube channels present it, and we'll never ever figure it out, so we might as well give up and let's create the learned helplessness. Just chase no breadcrumbs. Chase no breadcrumbs. Element 1. What is it? What did not happen? This is the official story. Can we see right through it as bullcrap? There's a million examples you and I could discuss for about a week straight. Can we see through the bullshit official story? 2, what does the lie want me to believe? How does it want me to act? How does it want me to behave if I'm dumb enough to actually believe it? If you don't know how you would react if you believed it, just look around and see how people around you react because of it. Like the most obvious example, and it goes way deeper than this, is a fake shooting is ultimately to remove the Second Amendment. I mean, that's just one tiny centimeter inside of a 50,000-mile rabbit hole, but that's just an example. It's much more, those shooting events are about much more than gun control. I mean, come on. But it's just, maybe I shouldn't even have presented such a bad example, but you see what I'm saying. Or if you prefer, what does the system want from the masses? And this goes beyond action to include emotion like hate, anxiety, and fear. Obviously, the system wants most of the West, for a 20-year strategy, wants most of the West hating Muslims, hating the Middle East. Of course, but then again, they don't. That's not in one direction. They want the Middle East hating the West. They want everybody hating everyone else. The divide and conquer of camps. Who brought the towers down? Who cares? You want to give it no power? Want to make them impotent? Who cares? Why'd they do it? What's the nature of the ritual? Who cares? Did they use nanothermite or directed energy to do it? Who the fuck cares? Give it a moment of energy or attention, like I did for 6 or 7 years. Homie, don't play that. I don't play this game any longer. But don't misinterpret the who cares. Remember, number 1, you need to be able to see that it's a lie. See, that's where we differentiate from the people around us. Everybody around us believes the 19 hijacker story. We see through the lie. So it's not the people around us say they don't care, but they don't see the lie. What I'm saying is we need to see the lie, which we all easily see. But I'm saying don't chase the breadcrumbs for 5 or 10 years because they'll lead nowhere. Okay? And the people around us, they're not seeing the lie, and they certainly aren't adjusting their lives. They're doing exactly what the lie is instructing them to do. So when I say who cares, don't put me in the same camp of the people around us that truly don't care, but in a totally different way. See, if we chase the breadcrumbs long enough, the elements, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, every so often, if tens of thousands of us just chase breadcrumbs, and someday I'm right about something, or you're right about something, or Owen Harris is right about something, or Judy Wood is right about something, if we chase enough breadcrumbs every so often, one of the theories is going to be right on the mark and pretty darn close, or hit the nail on the head. They don't mind that. They'll tolerate that because no one will know exactly when they hit the nail on the head. It's hammering blindfolded. They'll tolerate that. They don't care, even if a lot of people get close in a lot of areas, because everyone's just still munching up the breadcrumbs of who, what, when, where, why, and how. And that's what the system wants us running after. Why? Because the breadcrumbs distract from what's really important in life. Looking inward, improving yourself, walking the path of a true human. The 6 elements are the 6 distractions. 6 elements, 6 distractions. I'm also calling the 6 breadcrumbs. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. Distractions from what, you ask? Oh, nothing important, and only, the meaning of life, and, strengthening your spirit and soul, and, just little stuff like that nobody really gives a shit about. Now, you have to test it. Can this 2-part formula be applied to anything? I'll do one more. But please test it. Test it for me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Elon Musk sending a Tesla Roadster, into a billion-year orbit around Mars. Part 1. Can we see the lie? Well, yeah. It's pretty easy to see that Elon Musk didn't send a red sports car into an orbit around Mars. Who the fuck can't see that? Well, a lot of people, but you understand what I'm saying. Part 2 is the key. For those that believe that bullshit, what does the system want from those people? What's the intention of the lie? What does it want those that accept the lie to do? Okay? Well, it wants me or people believing that governments are exploring space, and therefore I accept the $1 trillion that will be spent on it over the next decade. In fact, it's all a worthwhile pursuit, going to Mars and all the other lone scum bullshit. Now, therefore, what I choose is the opposite. I outwardly, publicly, do not give any permission and don't support Buddy's tax money going into fake space exploration in places like Mars nobody will ever go. The system, in its fake presentation of Mars and Elon Musk, it wants me thinking that men and women of humble beginnings can just drop out of college after 3 days at Stanford in the PhD program and not only lead the world in industry, they can become billionaires in the process. Just, anybody can get ahead in this society. It's what it wants me to believe. 3 days is all you need in a PhD program to replace NASA. 3 days. So this is a land of opportunity for everyone. That's what it wants me to believe in fairy tale stories like this. It wants me respecting and loving a system that allows such wondrous opportunity that Elon Musk portrays and demonstrates. It wants me proud of the system itself, where the wonder of sending such a CGI sports car around Mars is even possible in such a wonderful country. It wants the slaves satisfied with their situation, not ready to sharpen pitchforks. It's all part of it. There are probably 100 more things it wants from me, if I'm willing to go all the way down the line into the trivial, considering what do they get by people believing the SpaceX nonsense and the Tesla Roadster around Mars nonsense. I don't know. For example, as a lover of SpaceX, it makes me inclined to watch another pointless TV series about Mars, which reinforces the master lie itself, cycling back on itself in what I call a giant poop loop. And what an appropriate ending analogy. 40-some minute conversation about Elon Musk, lone scum, using the word poop loop. Thanks. Okay, last thing, if you're inclined to disagree with large parts of what I presented, answer this honestly. Is there any case in history, in pursuing truth or reality or conspiracy or trying to expose a corrupt government or criminal control structure, however you want to phrase it, is there any situation where research to expose the who, what, where, when, and why of it yielded any results? Think about that. Spending years to research the who, what, when, where, and why of any of these issues, where did it yield one single result? Well, Matt, we looked into the who, what, when, where, and why of the Clinton Foundation, and Hillary Clinton and 4 or 5 trustees all went to jail. See what I mean? Nothing ever happens in any area. So maybe it's a stretch for me to say the nature of this reality matrix itself is the endless picking up of breadcrumbs of who, what, when, where, and why. The nature of the reality is it will lead to nowhere because it's designed to lead to nowhere. Hey, maybe I'm wrong about that. Of course, these are theories. But anybody that would take it off the table when there isn't one instance in anything we've ever looked at with where research on the who, what, when, where, and why yielded a result that, say, favored humanity. Never has, which means at this point, likely never will. That's not negative. It means turn the tremendous energy and attention and love and everything you possess, turn it away from the negativity. Stop feeding the system. Start forget the screen, the ridiculous screen that surrounds you. Turn it inward and then see what happens. I wish I had more answers there. All my Jedi training in all this has been fighting the outward nature of the system and pointing out what's on the screen. I need more work in ignoring the screen and looking inward myself. Matt, Quantum of Conscience, January 7th, 2019. If you can believe that. Wow. The 6 elements of getting to the bottom of something. The who, what, where, when, why, and how. 6 false breadcrumbs that this reality lays for us. Well, what else is there if not the who, what, when, where, why, and how? I hope you'll see. That's what this presentation's all about. There's a certain group of people who question reality and see that, in general, most things explained by an official story don't add up. There are 6 elements of any story, real, fake, conspiracy, etc. And we all know what those 6 elements are. We've heard them our entire lives. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. It appears logical that when another fake story is vomited up by society's puppet masters, such as another bullshit project that Elon Musk is working on, for example, we should all take to YouTube to prove it fake by tirelessly doing research on the who, what, where, when, why, and how of the bullshit story. That's what we do. That's what we have been doing. Now, I understand that the Tesla car exists. But I don't believe that Elon Musk just sent a convertible into a billion-year orbit around Mars, or that Elon Musk will soon have supersonic tubes going under the ground all over the United States. I don't buy most of these bullshit projects. But who or what Elon Musk is not the point. People would say, don't investigate the who, what, when, where, why, and how. But isn't that our duty as truthers? To expose these 6 elements? To get to the truth using the 6 elements? No. To those who finally want to step off the hamster wheel after running on the same hamster wheel for 10 years straight, we can see that this, quote, chasing the 6 breadcrumbs is exactly what the system wants us doing. I don't know about you, but at this point, when I can clearly see what the system wants me to do, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm finally realizing all breadcrumbs laid down for us to pick up are pissed on breadcrumbs, strategically placed there by the system. Every one of them is some kind of poison if associated with chasing the who, what, where, when, why, and how. We think we're getting somewhere but we're riding on their merry-go-round going nowhere. It's clear that chasing the 6 elements of a fraudulent story or chasing the 6 elements of a conspiracy through research is exactly what this life matrix wants us to do. We don't get anywhere. So hasn't 10 years plus proven that this pursuit is a waste of time? Are we just going to keep doing the same things over and over again, decade after decade?